Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today is the last video of my series on exploring functions, where I went from SE, which is my inferior function, all the way to NI, which is the subject of today's video, introverted intuition. So this might be my own bias speaking, but I honestly think that introverted intuition is one of the most beautiful functions out there, and it really saddens me that I feel like a lot of societies do not know how to appreciate it to its fullest. It leads to the birth of great novels, all the amazing literature that you read from like ancient times all the way to contemporary, and all the great plays, all the great um, poetry and musicals and films. A lot of them contain introverted intuition very heavily because it's about appreciating the metaphorical, appreciating the symbolic, and the imaginative, and kind of able to give you a life that is way more than what you see. Able to place importance on things that are way more than just eating and sleeping and shopping. I mean, none of that is bad. Obviously, I enjoy all of that, but introverted intuition is a function that allows you to elevate your level of living to something more, you know, beautiful than just the normal routine, and it's about the appreciation of beauty. And I honestly just love places that allow me to engage in the function a lot, like art museums, art galleries, um, film places with like quality films. Also, certain bookstores, they will give you that very strong, like beautiful surroundings, and also they just give you this inspiration for you to kind of move away from the normal world and into something greater. And so I think that it really is a way for a lot of people to, get out of this mundane existence. Also, a place for people to be creative, a place for people to, think of things that they may not see, and make that entertainment, like in the movies when you see people bring like strange creatures to life, like a lot of famous cartoons or famous sci-fi, amazing stuff like that can happen with introverted intuition. Obviously, with like extroverted sensing doing the work, because you cannot just succeed in life with introverted intuition. You need to put things into action. So let me just go into this brief definition of introverted intuition. A lot of times people talk about it as a function that focuses on the big picture. It's not really interested in details. Unlike introverted sensing, it's not really about the immediate surroundings. It's not really about the comfort in our surroundings. It's more of an internal feeling of comfort and beauty. And so introverted intuition is very much interested in philosophy a lot of the times, delving into an idea. So NI people, NI DOMs especially, are prone to really going into an idea, and they don't really focus on a lot of ideas at once. They usually try to go deep into one idea, and there's so many things that can be explored within one idea or within a few ideas. And they can really just go days on exploring ideas and writing really amazing like theories about one idea. For example, a lot of famous philosophers in the past, maybe they like to think about this certain phenomenons that interest them, uh, like for example Albert Camus. I think he's an INTJ. He was interested in like this idea of existentialism. I mean he's more into, I think, this idea that we all live in an absurd world, so it inherently has no meaning, because we just live and die. So he explored this idea through many books with a similar theme of, you know, finding meaning. Again, not the exact quote, but basically it's like when they get interested in one idea, and you know, when they get interested in you know, one theory or whatever, they can explore it in many different ways. It can be through stories, it can be through films, it can be through like visual images, um, and it just gets a lot of new input, and they don't really just put things there. I think for NE is slightly different. They are more focused on like the breadth of ideas, so they tend to sometimes abandon certain ideas and move on to the next one that seems more exciting. But NI is like the opposite. It likes to go into a few ideas that interest them and just keep, you know, going down the rabbit hole and seeing how far you can explore. Um, Another good thing about NI is that it is very strong at marrying paradoxes. So I think this is actually another skill that is pretty underrated in society. So besides like the appreciation for the metaphors and symbolism and all that, NI also has a very strong ability to be able to see how, you know, a lot of things in life are paradoxical, and that's just how it is, you know, and it's like a function that's able to accept these paradoxical truths. So you know, in our society today, I think it's very, very popular, actually not just our society, maybe just society in general, like even many years ago, people like to have this us versus them mentality, you know. It's like, oh my god, you are this and I'm that, and like the religious versus the non-religious, you know, the this politics versus the other, and then like this ideology versus the other, and it just leads to a lot of divide, like people just hate each other. And I think I've touched on that a lot in many other videos as well, and this is something I noticed. But with NI, you are actually able to marry paradoxes. So you are able to say, you know, so for example, with the example of religion, right? Someone can be religious and someone can be atheist or maybe agnostic, meaning they haven't decided or they don't know for sure whether there's a God or not, because nobody can prove it or disprove it at this point. But you can say, you know, with NI, I think, at least for me, from my understanding, I don't really see like a religious person and an atheist are necessarily that different, because you know, as a religious person, you can also be a spiritual type of religious person, right? I mean, obviously, there are some organized religions out there. They are just downright, like shady and so on. But I have also met religious people who are able to elevate their understanding of religion into a form of spirituality. Like they teach, I mean, they take the teachings on a more like metaphorical and spiritual level, and they try to incorporate that into their own lives. Like, you know, like about forgiving others, about, you know, reconciling conflicts, and you know, just being able to look at your own problems before you point out other people's flaws, something like that. And they're really just able to incorporate that into their own lives in a very productive and meaningful way. So to me, you know, religious and non-religious is not really a form of conflict. It's more about, you know, are you able to marry the two ideologies? Because people use different ways to understand like the greater truths, right? Some people use religion, some people use like I don't know, maybe some spiritual books, some people use literature, some people use I don't know what else, a lot of different ways, right? Some people use like maybe like law of attraction or meditation, so on. And I think it's all the same. I think even if you're from different religions, I mean, if you look at the central tenets, like if you look at the central ideas, and if you look at the stories in a more metaphorical way, obviously those stories are not meant to be understood literally, because then it doesn't really make sense, like, oh, someone killed a goat, or someone, like their cousin betrayed them. I mean, obviously it's not like a story that you read into literally, because then it does not really teach you anything. But if you look at everything in a more, you know, meaningful and symbolic way, then a lot of things are very much in common, and it's not really, to me, it's not really a matter of, oh, you're religious or you're not. It's more of a matter of, what greater truths can you get from these materials. And I think someone religious can also be spiritual. Like, I don't think that, just because someone is religious, he or she has to be this very um, fundamentalist person. Or if someone is atheist, it doesn't mean that that person doesn't believe in anything spiritual either. I think there's a lot of connection with different ideas that way. And it's the same with, political ideologies. I think a lot of ideologies are actually just different sides of the same coin. And the reason people are so confused about it is because they don't really spend enough time, looking at ideas or talking it out with other people, and realizing that there are actually a lot of middle ground. Yeah, I mean, the world is a paradoxical place. Like, it seems to be a lot of seeming contradiction is actually not that contradictory. And this can actually be also understood in the MBTI level. I mean, we look at the functions like FE and TI, they seem to be diametrically opposed. I mean, they seem to be very opposite. But when you look at the way they function, I mean, for people with both developed functions, FE and TI, you know that they can work in conjunction, and you know that they're actually not that contradictory. They actually work very well together to solve a problem, right? One is to look at the logic of the situation, how to logically solve the problem, and the other one is, using emotion, using empathy. So these two have to work in conjunction in order to solve a problem. It's like one area, one cannot live without the other. And NI is very good at marrying paradoxes and understanding that, the world needs, very often the world needs two opposites to work together. You cannot just have one thing. It's going to cause imbalance. It's going to cause a lot of issues when either side goes into extreme and upsets the balance. But after saying so many good things about NI, I want to touch on one really major problem with NI. The very imaginative function, good at spotting patterns, and creating things out of mundane existence. Unfortunately, all these qualities can also lead to an issue, which is sometimes NI users, especially NI dominant users, tend to be living in their own head too much, and they can become delusional. And that is very sad, because I actually got this idea from Wences. I'm gonna link her channel in my cards. So basically, she was talking about how NI users can really believe in their own vision a bit too much, and they almost think that their own vision is a form of reality. So for example, an NI user can imagine a really great life and somehow believe that that already happened, which sounds like a good thing, but because of the weak SE function, that person may not end up doing anything to improve their situation. And so without action, you cannot really do much. Obviously, you can be happier as a result of your imaginings, but even that can only go so far. Because, for example, if you are, if you know that you have a crush on someone and you don't do anything about it, and you just know that it's impossible, but you just randomly think of moments where, you two are very happy together, that's not really going to result in you two actually getting together if you like know from a deeper level that, oh, it's just impossible, so I'm just imagining things to make myself feel better in the moment, but in reality I'm just not doing anything. And I also think that it's not possible, so I don't talk to that person. I mean, that's really not going to lead to any good results. And I think a problem with NI users is that we can use our mind as an escape from problems. So, it's also very common throughout history, like famous philosophers or, I don't know, some kind of writers. They could really go crazy if they are living in their head too much and they don't really improve their current situation by any action. They just live in poverty, they live in their own world, um, and then they like get famous posthumously when someone discovered their writings, which is very sad. Like, I honestly hope none of that would happen to an NI dominant user today. So I think that the important thing is to really use your function, use your vision, and put it into action. Having to do things that would actually, bring all your great ideas into something that works. Like you have a great idea about a movie, start writing the scripts. I'm going to talk about the next video, which is very, very much related to this topic of introverted intuition. It is about my experiences growing up as a NI dom in a society that really does not appreciate having introverted intuition. So I will see you soon. Bye.